The discovery. Ilara Voss stared at the ancient data crystal in her hands, its translucent surface glimmering under the soft blue light of her laboratory. As the lead archaeologist at the Theneri Scientific Institute, she had examined countless artifacts throughout her career. But this discovery sent chills down her spine. "Activate historical projection," she commanded, and the crystal hummed to life. Three-dimensional images filled the air before her. Star charts, mathematical equations, and electromagnetic frequency patterns from over 2 centuries ago. But there was something hidden within these ancient records, a pattern she couldn't ignore. Ilara's four-fingered hand swept through the holographic display, isolating a sequence of pulses that appeared throughout the historical record. Computer, cross-referenced these patterns with major technological breakthroughs in Theneri history. The computer worked silently for several moments before displaying a timeline that made Ilara's breath catch in her throat. Each pattern preceded a major scientific advancement, from their first nuclear reactor to quantum computing, from faster-than-light theory to gravitational manipulation. The correlation was undeniable. "By the 7 moons," she whispered, her silver eyes widening. For generations, the Theneri had prided themselves on their rapid technological advancement, evolving from a pre-industrial society to an interplanetary civilization in just under 3 centuries. Their accomplishments were taught to every child as evidence of Theneri intellectual superiority. But what if that wasn't the full story? Ilara activated her communication device. "Director Krell, I need to see you immediately. It's about the ancestral archives." Within the hour, Director Krell's imposing figure filled Ilara's laboratory doorway. His graying skin and distinguished facial ridges marked him as one of the eldest members of the Institute. "This better be important, Archaeologist Voss. The Ministerial Council meeting begins in 3 hours." "It is, Director." Ilara displayed her findings, walking him through the patterns and correlations. These signals were embedded in our historical electromagnetic records, always preceding our greatest scientific breakthroughs. They're not random. They contain mathematical sequences too precise to be natural phenomena. Krell's expression darkened as understanding dawned. "You're suggesting these are messages? That someone was guiding us?" "Not just guiding," Ilara replied, pulling up another display. "Look at the signal source triangulation. They originate from outside our solar system, specifically from the direction of what we now call the Forbidden Zone." The Forbidden Zone, a sector of space the Theneri government had declared off-limits centuries ago, citing dangerous stellar phenomena. No expeditions were permitted, no probes sent. It was the one mystery the otherwise curious Theneri people never questioned. "This can't leave this room," Krell said firmly, his voice lowered. "Do you understand the implications? Everything we believe about our civilization." "With respect, Director," Ilara interrupted, "this is too significant to suppress. Our entire understanding of our technological evolution is based on a falsehood." Krell paced the laboratory, his long robes sweeping behind him. "The Ministerial Council will never allow this to become public. They'll bury your research and possibly you with it." "Then we don't go to the council yet," Ilara suggested. "Let me investigate further. If I can decode these messages completely, understand what they're actually saying rather than just their mathematical structure." "You have 1 lunar cycle," Krell decided. "After that, we either have something conclusive to present or this project never existed." For the next 27 days, Ilara barely left her laboratory. She assembled a small, trusted team. Nibur, a quantum linguistics specialist, Thala, an astrophysicist, and Vex, a cryptography expert. Together, they worked to decode the ancient signals, careful to keep their work hidden from the Institute's official records. On the 26th day, Vex burst into the lab, his young face alight with excitement. "We've done it. The decryption matrix worked." The team gathered around as the computer processed the decrypted signals. Letters began to appear on the screen, not in Theneri script, but in an unknown language. Yet through some mathematical trick embedded in the signal itself, their meaning was clear. Greetings from Earth. You are not alone. The room fell silent. Earth, Thala whispered. That's in the Forbidden Zone. There's more, Vex continued, scrolling through the decrypted messages. These aren't just greetings. They're instructions, scientific principles, technological blueprints, disguised as natural phenomena. Whoever sent these wanted us to discover them only when we were ready to understand them. But why? Nibber questioned. Why guide our development in secret rather than make direct contact? Before anyone could theorize further, the laboratory doors slid open. 5 members of the Planetary Security Force entered, their uniforms immaculate and their expressions grim. Archaeologist Ilara Voss, the lead officer, stated, "By order of the High Minister, you and your team are to cease all research activities and surrender all findings related to Project Ancestral Signal." Ilara stepped forward. "How does the High Minister know about our work?" "That is classified information," the officer replied. "You will come with us now." 4 hours later, Ilara found herself in a pristine white room deep beneath the capital city. Across from her sat not just Director Krell, but High Minister Thelis herself, the most powerful person on the planet. "Your discovery has created quite a stir, Archaeologist Voss," Phyllis said, her voice unexpectedly gentle. "Though I suppose discovery isn't quite the right word. Perhaps confirmation would be more accurate." Ilara's confusion must have shown on her face. "The highest levels of government have known about the Earth signals for generations," Phyllis continued. "In fact, the establishment of the Forbidden Zone was specifically to prevent our people from traveling in that direction. You've been hiding this from our entire civilization." Ilara could barely contain her shock. "Why?" Phyllis exchanged glances with Krell before answering. "Because 50 years ago, they made direct contact with us." The room seemed to spin around Ilara. "What?" "A small delegation of government and scientific leaders met with representatives from Earth," Phyllis explained. "They revealed that they had been observing and occasionally guiding our development for over 2 centuries. But why keep it secret?" Ilara demanded. "It was their request, actually," Phyllis said. "The humans, that's what they call themselves, believe that premature disclosure of their existence would be culturally devastating for our people. They wanted us to maintain our sense of self-determination while they helped us avoid certain technological pitfalls that their own species had encountered." Ilara's mind raced with implications. "So everything we've achieved is still our achievement," Krell interjected firmly. "They provided nudges, not solutions. The brilliance and work were still Thenari." "But now something has changed," Phyllis continued. "The humans have requested an end to the secrecy. They believe we're ready for full disclosure and formal diplomatic relations." "Why now?" Ilara asked. "That's what they want to discuss," Phyllis replied. "And they've specifically requested your presence at the meeting." "Me? Why?" "Because you did what no other Thenari has done in 2 centuries. You noticed the pattern without being told to look for it. They seem to find that significant." 3 days later, Ilara stood with a small delegation of Thenari officials at the newly constructed interstellar reception facility. The cavernous room buzzed with tension and anticipation. Security forces lined the walls, though their presence seemed more ceremonial than precautionary. A soft chime announced the arrival of the transport, and all eyes turned to the large doorway as it slid open. The beings that walked through were both familiar and alien, bipedal like the Thenari, but with smoother skin in various shades of brown, beige, and pink. They had no facial ridges, their eyes were smaller, and they had peculiar growths of various colors on their heads that Ilara realized must be what the briefing documents had called hair. 5 humans entered, dressed in sleek uniforms bearing an emblem of their world, a blue sphere with continental outlines. The leader stepped forward, her dark skin contrasting with short silver hair. "High Minister Phyllis, She said in perfect Thenari language, "I am Ambassador Helena Chen of Earth. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for agreeing to this historic meeting." Phyllis performed the traditional greeting gesture. "Ambassador Chen, the Thenari people welcome you openly at last." Chen smiled, then her gaze found Ilara. "And you must be archaeologist Voss. Your discovery accelerated our timetable considerably." "I have many questions, Ambassador," Ilara replied, unable to hide her intensity. "As do we all," Chen nodded. "And now, finally, we can speak freely. It's time you learned why humanity has been watching your civilization for the past 2 centuries, and why we need your help now more than ever." The atmosphere in the room shifted as everyone present sensed the weight of the moment. 2 civilizations that had been connected in secret for centuries were finally face to face, and nothing would ever be the same again. The meeting. The Thenari delegation sat across from the humans in the Grand Council chamber, a room hastily adapted for this historic occasion. Ilara couldn't stop studying the visitors. Their expressive faces, their varied appearances, the casual confidence with which they carried themselves among aliens. They seemed both formidable and somehow familiar. Ambassador Chen stood at the center of the chamber, a holographic display behind her showing the Milky Way galaxy. "For nearly 3 centuries, humanity has been exploring the stars," she began. "Our first faster-than-light journey was a desperate gamble born from necessity. Earth's climate had become increasingly unstable, and our population had outgrown our planet's capacity." The hologram zoomed in on a small blue planet, Earth, and depicted its transformation over centuries. Rising seas, massive storms, advancing deserts. "We survived by adapting, by pushing our technology to its limits," Chen continued. "When we finally ventured beyond our solar system, we expected to find a galaxy teeming with intelligent life. Instead, we found silence." Ilara leaned forward. "But you found us." Chen nodded. "The Thenari were the first sentient species we encountered. Your world was still pre-industrial when our long-range probes first detected you, but your development was accelerating rapidly. So you decided to watch us," High Minister Phyllis said, "like specimens in a laboratory." "No," corrected another human, an older man with dark skin and gray at his temples who had been introduced as Dr. Marcus Washington. "We observe you as one might watch younger siblings, with hope and a desire to protect." "From what?" Ilara asked. The hologram shifted, showing a vast emptiness of space. "From what we came to call the Great Silence," Ambassador Chen explained. "As we explored further, we discovered evidence of civilizations that had risen and fallen throughout the galaxy. Ruins, artifacts, abandoned worlds. Yet active civilizations were vanishingly rare." The implication sent a chill through Ilara. Something was destroying them. "Or preventing their development," Chen confirmed. "We've identified 27 distinct extinct civilizations so far. Most never progressed beyond their equivalent of your quantum age. Those that did disappeared more abruptly." High Minister Phyllis's expression hardened. "And you didn't think this information might be relevant to share with us earlier? Would you have believed us without proof?" Dr. Washington asked gently. "Or would you have feared us as harbingers of doom? We needed you to trust us first." "Trust is built on honesty," Ilara countered. "A fair criticism," Chen acknowledged. "But our approach was cautious because of what happened with the Proxians." The hologram displayed another world, a reddish planet circling a distant star. 50 years before we discovered the Thenari, we found the Proxians," Chen explained. "Like you, they were developing rapidly. Unlike our approach with you, we made immediate contact, shared our technology openly, revealed everything we knew about the Great Silence." The Thenari waited in apprehensive silence for her to continue. "Within 20 years, their civilization collapsed," Chen said quietly. "Not from external threats, but from internal conflict. Different factions fought for control of the new technologies we provided. Religious upheaval followed our revelations about the galaxy. Their social structures couldn't adapt quickly enough to the radical expansion of their understanding. So with us, you chose a more gradual approach, Director Krell concluded. We shared knowledge through encoded signals. Dr. Washington explained. Mathematical principles that your scientists could discover independently when your society was ready to understand them. We helped you avoid certain technological dead ends that had cost humanity decades of progress. Like cold fusion, Thela realized suddenly. Our scientists attempted it for years before discovering quantum resonance technology instead. Exactly, Washington nodded approvingly. Your civilization's natural trajectory was already remarkable. We merely optimized it. Ilara processed this information. Her professional curiosity piqued despite her lingering anger at the deception. But why reveal yourselves now? Ambassador Chen's expression grew grave. Because we finally found evidence of what may be causing the Great Silence. The holographic display shifted again, showing a distant region of space where stars seemed dimmer, their light somehow muted. 3 Earth years ago, our deep space monitoring stations began detecting anomalies at the edge of the Sagittarius Arm. Chen explained. Something is affecting star systems in that region. Subtle at first, but accelerating. Energy signatures are being dampened, quantum communications disrupted. Is it a natural phenomenon? Asked one of the Thenari scientists. We don't believe so, Dr. Washington replied. The pattern is too precise, too methodical. Systems with developed planets are affected first. The implication settled heavily over the chamber. You believe it's intelligent, Ilara stated, and hostile. We believe it's ancient, Chen corrected. Possibly the answer to why advanced civilizations are so rare in our galaxy, and yes, potentially hostile, or perhaps simply indifferent to younger species like ours. High Minister Phyllis rose from her seat, her tall frame imposing even among her own kind. So humanity has guided our development for centuries to prepare us for this threat, to make us useful allies. To help you survive, Chen countered firmly. Humanity cannot face this alone, and the Thenari are the most promising civilization we've encountered. Your adaptive thinking, your unique quantum technologies, they complement our own strengths. And if we refuse this alliance, Thelis asked. Chen didn't hesitate. Then we will respect your decision and withdraw. But the threat approaching will not care about our diplomatic niceties. It has potentially consumed dozens of civilizations before us, and it shows no signs of slowing. The room fell silent as the Thenari delegation processed this revelation. Ilara's mind raced, connecting dots between the humans' disclosure and historical Thenari legends about guardians from the stars that had been dismissed as primitive superstition. I have a question, Ilara said finally, breaking the silence. These signals you sent us, they weren't just scientific principles, were they? There were other messages embedded deeper in the patterns. Dr. Washington looked surprised. You detected those as well. Not fully decoded yet, Ilara admitted, but I recognized patterns similar to our ancient artistic expressions. Music, poetry, cultural references. A smile spread across Dr. Washington's face. Cultural exchange was always part of our approach. We didn't just want to help the Thenari advance technologically. We wanted to share who we are, our art, our dreams, our perspective on the universe. It wasn't just about preparing allies. It was about forging a genuine connection between our peoples. For the first time since the meeting began, Ilara felt a tension release within her. The human approach had been paternalistic, yes, but not coldly calculated. There was something genuinely hopeful in their method. May I make a suggestion? Ilara addressed both delegations. Before we discuss this threat further, perhaps we should take time to truly know one another, not as observers and observed, but as equals. Share your art, your philosophy, your history openly. Let us understand who humanity truly is. Ambassador Chen exchanged glances with her team, then nodded. I would welcome that approach, Archaeologist Voss. Too long have we known you only from a distance. Over the next 3 days, the initial diplomatic meeting evolved into an unprecedented cultural exchange. Humans shared their literature, music, and art with passionate enthusiasm. The Thenari responded with their own cultural treasures, the crystalline symphonies of Master Venin, the philosophical treatises of Nalora, the atmospheric sculptures that captured emotional states in suspended particles. On the fourth day, Ilara found herself walking through the botanical gardens with Dr. Washington, away from the formal meetings. "You know," she said, "our oldest myths speak of beings who guided our ancestors from the stars. They were called the Shapers. For centuries, we dismissed these as primitive superstitions." Washington looked genuinely intrigued. "We had no presence on your world before our probes arrived. Perhaps your ancestors encountered someone else. Or perhaps," Ilara suggested, "there's something in sentient species that intuitively understands we're not meant to evolve in isolation. That connection across the stars is our natural state." "An appealing thought," Washington agreed. "That we're predisposed to seek each other out across the void." They paused by a fountain where water flowed upward against gravity, a display of the Thenari mastery of localized gravitational fields. "My people will join your alliance," Ilara said confidently. "Not because we fear this threat, though we do, but because isolation is no longer an option for either of our species. The universe is vaster and more dangerous than we understood, but also richer with possibility now that we stand together." Washington's expression turned thoughtful. "You know what humanity's greatest fear was when we began exploring the stars? That we would be alone forever. Finding the Thenari, finding you, was the greatest moment in our history." "Even though you had to watch us from afar for 2 centuries?" Ilara asked. "Especially because of that," Washington replied. "We got to witness your triumphs, your resilience, your unique way of seeing the universe. Humanity had to earn the right to stand beside you as equals." The next day, in the Grand Council chamber, High Minister Thelis and Ambassador Chen signed the Interstellar Alliance Treaty, the first formal diplomatic agreement between humanity and another sentient species. As the document was sealed, applause erupted from both delegations. Ilara watched from her seat, understanding that she was witnessing not just the end of her people's isolation, but the beginning of something profound. For centuries, humanity had been their unseen guardians, watching and guiding from the shadows. Now they would face the approaching darkness together, neither species alone in the vast expanse of space. As the celebrations continued around her, Ilara's thoughts turned to the ancient signals that had started this journey, and to the unknown threat approaching from the edge of the galaxy. The greatest challenges lay ahead, but for the first time in history, Earth and Thenari would face them as one. The guardians from the stars had revealed themselves at last, not as gods or conquerors, but as allies extending a hand of friendship across the cosmic void.